Welcome to the podcast, Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, where it's all about discovering the thoughts that get you in the mood, the thoughts that get you out of the mood, and how creating a deeper connection with yourself creates a deeper connection with your spouse. I'm your coach, Shelly Anderson, coaching you through life, love, and intimacy. This is episode number 149. My husband made me have a panic attack. Oh no. What are we going to do? Everyone, thank you for joining me for today's episode where we're going to talk just a little bit about panic attacks, but also the thought of someone else making us go through something. So I want to just start off by saying or sharing an experience that happened last week. So I was working on a big project for work for my coaching business. And I felt like I had a deadline, right? Because the kids were about ready to get out of school. Summer vacation was starting. And so in my mind, I'd created this deadline where I had one day left to get this project done. So I was in the middle of working on it. I was in the thick of things. And halfway through the day, Nick and I just started talking about some stuff. And he ended up saying something that was about a different project in the future. And I was totally caught off guard. I wasn't expecting us to talk about that. And I wasn't expecting him to say some of the things that he said. And I realized that as soon as he said that thing, and it wasn't even something like super negative or bad. It was just something that I ended up being flooded with a million thoughts about that. And they were all negative thoughts about it. So in my mind, I was like, I am having a thought storm right now, and it is pouring. But one of the things that kind of crossed my mind was, like, why would he do this right now? Why would he say this thing to me about a future project? Like, he should know that I'm trying to finish this by tomorrow, so that he should know. Like, that informed me that I definitely had an expectation of him, that he should know the things I'm working on and all of the deadlines that I have for myself. And he should be able to read my mind and my thoughts. And, also know that I was under the pressure of myself to try and get it done by tomorrow. So I instantly had probably hundreds of negative thoughts just flood my brain within a matter of seconds. And so I felt very panicked. I had a lot of fears and worries. And I remember thinking, as I was having all these negative emotions, like, he made me have this panic attack. He made me feel this way. And so then, of course, on top of the panic I was feeling, then I started to feel mad at him. So, of course, if I'm feeling panicked and worried and under pressure and mad, this is not going to help me feel in the mood to be close and intimate with him. And so this really gave me the opportunity to kind of dive into this a little bit deeper. Now, I've had panic attacks before, and I definitely have some specifics when I have panic attacks. Like, if I go to the dentist, oh yeah, I'm going to have a panic attack. And if I fly over water, yeah, I have a panic attack. So, I've definitely gone to the doctor and said, I have panic attacks in these situations, and I have my medicine for those panic attacks. But I wanted to just also talk about the definition of a panic attack, because I just found this so fascinating, and I think this can be super helpful. So panic is a sudden, uncontrollable fear or anxiety, often causing wildly unthinking behavior. Oh my gosh, this definition just fascinated me, right? Because fear happens in our mind, right? We're afraid that something is going to happen to us. We have to think about that. And anxiety is worry, right? It's that constant worry of what if this thing, this negative thing happens. So panic attacks have a lot to do with our thinking. Another definition of panic is a sudden, unreasoning terror, often accompanied by mass flight. And it can be a feeling of dread. So I also really liked this definition because it's talking about unreasoning terror. That means our mind is not thinking correctly. It's thinking unreasonably. It's jumping to those really those extreme ways of thinking, that all or nothing thinking, the absolute thinking, or thinking in absolutes. And so it really, learning these definitions really increased my own knowledge and awareness that panic attacks really are based in our thinking. And so this really invited me to take a deeper look at, okay, what's happening to me that I'm, really falling into this uncontrollable way of thinking and an unreasonable way of thinking when I realize I'm in a panic attack. And so I think it's going to be important to just take a moment to recognize when a panic attack has shown up. And usually the biggest signs are that you're thinking a lot of negative thoughts that seem uncontrollable and unreasonable. But what your body does is that your heart rate is going to go up and you're going to develop shallow breathing. And a lot of times what comes with that is even more panic, more fear of like, I'm not going to be able to catch my breath. I'm not going to be able to breathe. So then that can also make the panic attack dive even deeper, right? Because now we're adding that as well, because we know what our body is doing. We're experiencing that, and that scares us. So this really made me want to look at my own panic attacks, and this one in particular when my husband was talking about a project, right? Because I was in no fear. I was in no danger. Like nothing was happening to me when we were talking about this future project, and yet I was going into a panic attack. And so this gave me an opportunity to say, hey, let's look at this and see what's going on, because I'm blaming my husband. I am blaming my husband for having just a normal conversation about something in the future. And I'm going into a panic attack and I'm saying he's the cause of me feeling this way. And I don't like him for that. So as I started to really dive into this, there were some questions that came to my mind. And this is the first question. Can my spouse really make me have a panic attack? Initially, the answer is yes. If we have little to no awareness about panic attacks, or if we don't know what they are, or if we don't know how to recognize them, then yeah, I think that can happen. But the phrase somebody made me can really act as a flashing neon sign that we are in a trap, and that it's a trap that's in life coaching we call emotional childhood. It means we're acting and responding and reacting from a place of like a toddler, meaning we are lacking skills. We don't know what to do yet in this situation, so we are panicking. It means we are lacking the skill that we are in need of. So I would say yes, initially something maybe can trigger us because we don't know what a panic attack is or how to manage one. But the more that we learn about them, the more power we can have in our lives when it comes to panic attacks. The second question is, what can I do if I'm having a panic attack? Well, if you don't have the skills yet, then I would definitely take medication, right? I definitely have medication for these two scenarios, like the dentist and flying over water. But the last time we flew over water, I prepared myself and I didn't need it. So I want to also offer that to you guys, that increasing your own awareness about panic attacks can be extremely powerful. So in time, as you start to learn about panic attacks and learn more about how they work and how they show up with you, then this can help reduce them. A big component is learning about thought work. And this is the thought work that comes with life coaching, because it can reduce the way you think about things in negative terms. It can reduce your fears. It can reduce your worries. It can reduce your anxieties. And being able to have the skills to do that is good for you in all areas of your life, which will, of course, be good for your marriage and good for your intimate life together. So, yes, take some meds if you need them, but also learn about the skills that help. What skills help with a panic attack? Deep breathing. And I want to point out that the breathing is not what solves the panic attack. The breathing is what reduces the hormone of cortisol in your brain that keeps you from thinking in a controlled way, or it keeps you in a place that you can think reasonably again. Because a panic attack is when you're not thinking reasonably and you can't think clearly. But deep breathing gets the cortisol levels back down so that you can think clearly again. Find ways to relax. Get out of your own head, right? And it doesn't mean solve everything right now. It could be like, okay, I'm going to put that on hold for a bit and I'll come back to it. Distract yourself. When I had this particular panic attack last week, I knew I had to go pick up a test kit for my son in a different city. And so I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to just distract myself for a little bit, do some deep breathing while I'm in the car during this drive, because I have to go do this thing anyways. And so I was able to, distract myself through this car ride and through deep breathing, and to be able to start to think clearly, like, okay, yes, you can get through this. This is just temporary. Everything is figure outable. Having a little mantra in mind also can be very helpful. But one of the biggest helps is to know what your triggers are if you've had panic attacks, and to come up with a plan of how you want to approach panic attacks. And so luckily I was aware of the signs and I recognized them in myself. And so I was able to say, okay, panic attack, it has shown up. I know I need to start my deep breathing. I know I'm going to distract myself for a little bit in a positive, healthy way. And then when I'm able to think clearly, I will come up with a game plan. So that's what we did. So I think the final question is there anything I can do to avoid future panic attacks? And the answer is yes. And it has to do with being proactive, not waiting around for them to happen and then go, oh, shoot, what do I do now? Because I forgot that I should have come up with a plan, right? So when we do that, or when we don't be proactive, we're going to put ourselves in the victim mentality once again. And then we will view our spouse as the attacker, right? The one that is causing us harm. So we have to be proactive. So yes, this means increasing our own awareness of our triggers and to have a simple game plan that actually includes deep breathing, a mantra, and some type of distraction, right? Because you just need it for the time being. And then knowing that you can come back to it when you are in a place where you can think more clearly. And the final and most important thing about how to prevent future panic attacks is to start to develop the skills now when you're not having panic attacks that will actually lower your mind spin, right? And if we think about things that cause maybe panic attacks in our marriage, it's going to be to learn the skills that lower some of the problems that show up in marriage. So as we get to the end of this podcast, I just want to offer everyone listening that as you start to learn about some life coaching skills and how to manage your thoughts in a way that is healthy and productive, this can really lower your anxiety and your panic attacks. So you've got to start somewhere. Whenever I talk to people about panic attacks, their first thought is like they're uncontrollable. Right? And they are initially when you don't understand them and you don't have skills. But once you start to understand them, and once you start to develop the skills through thought work, because remember, these are based in what our thoughts are doing, then you start to lower what is actually happening. So I want to offer everyone that I have a mini course. It's only $20 on my website, shelley.andersoncoaching.com. And it's a mini course called Restoring Intimacy. This is a simple way to just get you started with the most basic thought work that we can offer through life coaching. I like it because it's not intense. You can take this mini course in less than an hour, but with such a quick amount of time, you can already start to develop new thinking skills. And it is the thinking skill that lowers anxiety. And if it lowers anxiety, it is going to help with panic attacks. And so I just would encourage everyone to be proactive. Take this step to take a mini course for only $20 and start to learn a thinking skill that will lower your own anxiety. Because when you restore this type of intimacy with yourself, you restore it with your spouse. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you will join me again next week.